great presentations here today. I just want to put a little disclaimer out there. I'm not from the technology industry at all. I'm coming from the education side. My name is Rachel Cinco Columbus, and I'm presenting here today on behalf of revolu. And revolu is an online platform designed to sort of help educators, researchers, and learners, and immersive content creators network around these this technology towards achieving sustainable goals development. And I'm also a PhD student at the University of Helsinki in the Faculty of Educational Sciences. My research focuses on empathy, visual thinking, and creativity. And I did a project in 2017 for the Ministry of Education, and it was supposed to be sort of this research around AR and VR for teaching and learning and benefits towards education, and that's kind of where I got hooked on the technology. And so ever since then, I've been really enthusiastic about this for teaching and learning. Before coming to Helsinki, I was a classroom teacher, an art teacher in the United States for over 6 years in the public schools in Kansas City, Missouri. Before that, I taught in Chicago, and before that, I taught in Los Angeles. And then I've been in Helsinki, so I've actually taught in Helsinki as well. So coming from the classroom setting, so basically I wanted to start my discussion here today by addressing the current state of education in institutions around the world. Classrooms are full of students that are familiar with technology, but yet a lot of teachers are utilizing this banking method where they're viewing students as vessels or containers that need to be deposited of information. And so basically this sort of style of educational structure is sort of modeled after the industrial era, and it promotes standardization and conformity in education. And Sir Ken Robinson in 2014 did a TED Talk, and he was talking about a need for a paradigm shift in the way that we view education, and we need to think of it, move away from standardization in education and go in the opposite direction. So what are some of the current changes that are happening in education right now? We see this upsurge in digital online learning. We have, 81 million students enrolled in online courses or taking classes online. We have the MOOCs. We have over 800 universities that offer courses or online classes currently. And so we're seeing a trend of this kind of learning going into virtual environments. Then also in terms of the actual school setting, whenever it's financially feasible, schools are actually starting to reshape the actual learning environments, meaning the architecture that they're bringing into schools is becoming more interactive. They're leaving pipes and solar panels and geothermal systems accessible for teachers and learners to come and interact with the systems of the schools. We also have incorporated landscaping to act as exterior labs to schools, so they can actually do hands-on experiments with wastewater and stuff as part of so the school environments are shifting in terms of becoming more interactive at a physical level. And then also there's this giant question at the cost of tuition for higher education, especially in the US where it's really expensive to get a higher degree, and the people that need the degrees can't necessarily afford to pay the higher tuition costs. And are the benefits going to be worth the cost in the long run? Because a degree does not always guarantee a job. So then for the future, we're looking towards the future, because right now our classrooms are filled with students that are familiar with the technologies. And so on the horizon we have this fourth industrial revolution. And what are the skills that these students are going to need in their future for this post-fourth industrial revolution? And this fourth industrial revolution brings with it advances in connectivity, IoT, networking, and communication. And so the skills that these students are going to need, the top 3 skills we're looking at are complex problem-solving skills, critical thinking, and creativity. And then if you look further down, you can see that a lot of these, the rest of these skills are kind of rooted more in human resources and soft skills. So this is a bit of a shift in focus. So then how can VR and 360 learning technologies foster skills like creative thinking, problem solving, and creativity? Well, if we take a look at sort of what is being created, what sort of learning environments are being shaped by the content creators, we can get an idea of kind of what potential this technology has for us. So, for example, learning immersion, language immersion. People can go into a VR setting and they can practice speaking foreign language with a native language speaker, and they can use the language in real time. So there's some critical thinking there. You have in philosophy, so Seven Oaks, a school in the UK, used VR philosophy, used VR to teach a philosophy, Descartes' dream argument to students, so some complex problem-solving skills. And then in special ed, we have, VR can help provide insights to students struggling with concepts. And then also meditative VR apps can help students on the autism spectrum with calming their behavior and things like that, so some cognitive flexibility. And then we have creative platforms where students can actually go in and then create in the environments. They can build houses and settings and things inside in 3D figures and types of creative processes. When they have some more of your traditional, distant learning and architecture and skills training as well. But if you look a little bit more deeply at the technology, and you say what are the skills, or how is the technology really advancing learning and creativity and critical thinking and what was the and so anyways, one of the really interesting things is that you have this embodied learning, or this psychomotor learning, that can be integrated into the VR content. And a really great example of this is this company called Fundamental VR. And what they've done is they create content for medical students, and the medical students go into the VR experience, but then they have these tabletop sort of handheld things, not the controllers like you would see in Oculus Rift, but these actually, they're designed for this type of training. And we're talking about orthopedic and neurospinal students. So what they're getting is this haptic touch experience of what it is like to actually perform surgeries on bones. So, sawing a bone or drilling a bone while they're in the VR experience and learning about the surgical procedures. And then you also have this capability with the technology to personalize learning. So you can challenge learners and their weak spots, and you can work, the computers can personalize the learning for the individual. And then also you can use them to teach scenarios that are too dangerous or costly to do in person. We saw that with the flare. Yeah. So you get these types of uses here. And then for VR and research, and when I say VR and research, I mean using VR as a methodology as opposed to actually researching VR itself. The VR biometric devices can be worn by VR users when they're in the immersive experience, and this gives researchers the ability to track the human experiences in real time, and the immersive process of the VR sort of has this non-mediation sensation, or this gives the viewer the idea that there actually is no technology between them and the sensorial experience, which is great and can have wonderful implications for future research on various real-time human experiences, but it also brings up some issues related to ethics and with research and education. So some ethical issues are age limit. Anybody know what the age limit is for VR? If you have to guess, what? It's 13. Yeah. So Oculus Rift and Facebook have kind of set the bar at 13. And so, but then you have companies like Google Expeditions. They're going into the primary classrooms, but they're not using the full-on VR headsets. They have the kind of the glasses, and then so that's kind of a consideration to take it into consideration when using it in classrooms. But it's also vertigo, or this motion sickness issue with users in VR. that people need to be aware of, and then also some of this like socialized environments, like you were saying, who was talking about Facebook and making it like the next telephone. Yeah, so this idea can lead to bullying or antisocial behaviors in virtual spaces. And then also you have this auteur theory, or this idea that the content itself is created by filmmakers, and they have control over what you see and what you don't see, so they are functioning as a form of author in a way, just like a text. And so, you know, there's a lot to be said about VR technology, in that it really can hold the interests of the learner, which is really hard in this era when they're bombarded with entertainment and gadgets and phones and everything. So, but what's really great about it is that it has the ability to shift the educational paradigm away from the dominant 2D dimensional way of perceiving information that we use so much in our classrooms today, and take the learning into experiential learning environments and present learners with multiple perspectives. So Nick Sousanis, in his 2015 doctoral dissertation, is arguing over the primacy of words in images in Western culture, and he defines this sort of process, or this need for unflattening ourselves, as the simultaneous engagement of multiple vantage points from which to engender new ways of seeing. So education, it needs to emerge from a 2D linear world and engage in more 3D rhizomatic ways of thinking. And so we need to expose learners to multiple perspectives, and this can help promote empathy. It can foster creativity and critical thinking and problem solving. So VR and immersive learning environments can take education out of the textbooks and provide opportunities for learners to engage in embodied experiential learning. This exposes them to multiple perspectives, at the same time fosters divergent thinking. And these are all essential skills for their futures. These technologies can connect us all in ways unimaginable, and immersive technologies can shift our current constructs of the educational paradigm, and we can all collectively start educating for a more sustainable future. Thank you.
All right, do we have any questions for Rachel?
I have a question for Auntie. Yes. I didn't get to ask it earlier, but so with the special education, have you been using this in your classes? I mean, have you been researching the VR in special education settings?
Not yet, but I'm planning to my lesson to include some like special classes and special schools, and to see whether they can, for example, focus more when they are in the VR. There's not so much distraction.
Yeah.
It will be very interesting. Content not, they can, I don't think.
Yeah,
They need to be very interested in that environment. I mean, that there need to be interactions and new ways to visualize.
Right, and I almost would say that for almost all students nowadays, it has to be interesting and engaging, or else they're going to lose interest. So, yes.
You mentioned this emotional responses, and then also on top of what he said, how would you like measure those kind of responses? Like, what kind of metrics would you use?
Well, I'm not technically VR, like I'm not using VR for research myself, but they have like gear you can wear, like, you know, on your head. So they're like reading sensors and sweat glands and types of things that those types of researchers use while people are immersed in VR to take biometric readings of the sensations that they're experiencing while they're in the visual.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, we have like there's emotional scale that the player writes down his feeling after the interaction or after the VR, and we can use like the heartbeat, like you said, and we can combine them and see whether there's an emotional response to the environment.
Yeah, and there's also video, like real-time video of them inside the immersive environments as well, so kind of more traditional but ways of doing research.
If I've understood correctly, it's already implemented in the States in few schools, is it?
VR?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I would say that, you know, they have headsets, or they use it as part of their curriculum. I've actually spoken with a school in the U.S. It's sort of like a voc tech kind of higher institution, and they use it in architecture, architecture programs.
Yeah, my question was, how do you measure, like, do you use some tools or are there metrics, like how do you measure that they have understood the concept?